Hello, everybody. I am here today with Tricia Littlefield, somebody that we have been working with actually personally at Anansi for a while now in a few different, capacities, both in terms of some projects and in terms of her helping us behind the scenes with some work. And I gotta say, just a few minutes of conversation with the strategist has led to some crazy, amazing things for our business. And although this woman is very humble, there are many stories of just making a few changes that can just create massive results for people in the long term. So we asked her on to talk about that stuff because we thought you might want to know what are some things that you can put into an initial website build that will actually move the client forward in terms of marketing and, being visible all on its own. We like to constantly shoot down the idea, if you build it, they will come. And this lady just shows us that that is not always the case. So in terms of official bio, Tricia is the solopreneur behind Ledger's web design. She's been creating custom conversion-focused websites for the past 20 years. She specializes in getting overworked bookkeeping professionals and profit-first professionals. Can I get a heck yeah? More time, more clients, and an easier sales process. Running her own web design business since '99, she still works with her very first client. Her home business allowed her to keep her kids at home when they were little, something I personally certainly aspire to. And she was able to work what she loved, but also be a stay-at-home mom, which meant everything to her. I so feel that. Anyway, welcome, Tricia. I am so happy to have you here on the show.
Thank you very much for the great interview, and I'm very happy to be here. I, of course, listen to your podcast, and I've worked with so many people in your agency, and everybody's fun. So, they take care of everything for me, so it's one more thing off my plate. So I love that.
Excellent. Well, we certainly have fun, whether it's behind the scenes or on our projects. So I'm glad you've been so fun to work with. Everyone who's worked with you just has amazing, awesome things to say. But I'm curious, Tricia, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself in your own terms, some of the things that you specialize in, and maybe your own story.
It's odd that the customer I still work with now, he owns a fishing lodge in Canada. So in 1999, after I graduated from university, he had asked me, he was doing business with my husband, and he asked me, questions about computers and websites. And then he decided that I should build his website. And I had a full-time job, and I said, I don't know anything about websites. I just read about it. I just know theory. And he wouldn't back off. He's insisted that I do his website, which it has been a blessing. And I bothered him so much with questions because I just wanted to know everything about his business and everything his customers would feel when they flew from the States into this, it's a fly-in fishing lodge in the Canadian wilderness. What's that like? So he was tired of that. And he said, I'm flying you and your husband out, and you can experience it. And then you can answer all your own questions without asking me more. And of course, he was friendly about it. Still one of my most favorite vacations, and we still work together. So that's how I got started. Very, very unusual, but that was 1999, and the web was kind of just getting going then.
Well, that is really awesome. So now fast forward 20 plus years. And now, you yourself have niched down and work quite a bit with accountants, profit first professionals. Listeners who are not familiar with profit first, just after this show, Google it. I promise it will be awesome.
How awesome it is.
Yes, and us as well. In fact, it has been so awesome for us that I teach workshops on doing it on a personal level for people in my community and have trained everyone in my family on it. Yeah. Anyway, so I am curious though, what are, before this call, we were talking about some of the work that you do in terms of putting energy into a website that you're building, basically to set it up for success. And you said that some of these things were basic, but I'm willing to bet that not everybody is taking care of these things ahead of time. So what would you say are some of the critical components that you build into a new website other than, great copy and great design?
Yes, I can leave that up to you now. However, I still start with hours of interviews with the owners of the company And then I spend a lot of time with the employees, the frontline staff, asking questions. And that's so critical. When you understand their customers and what their customers are looking for, then it allows me to sit back and think about how people are going to look at this website. You know, how do I have to arrange the navigation and what should be on the homepage? And then when you're building the website, you want to use really good code, and things have changed a lot now. There's so many visual web design products, and they offer so many wonderful advantages. But I did like the old school when you could really get in there and the code would be so clean, because Google loves good code that's clean. And so I'll build that into the website, and I'll also consider accessibility. So making the web usable for everybody, regardless of their abilities. Like some people might not be able to see, or they have poor eyesight or can't hear. And when you build that into a website, just naturally, like once you learn something, it's hard not to do it. So even if I haven't sold that to somebody, it's just hard not to think of that when I'm building. And Google, it's a big blind user. So if you have this accessible code in there, when you do take the time to put in the search engine optimization ideas and title tags and alt tags and in schema code, it's just going to help you rank well. And then when you're truly answering your customers' needs on the website, and you find that out also not only interviewing the clients, but looking into their analytics, and you find out those answers. And if you take the time, one thing I've always loved doing is the website project's over, I'm fully paid, but I also always check in. Like this one client, I checked their analytics after, and I thought, well, why are people searching for hours? Like, you know, when is this store open? And I thought that was odd. So then I went back to Google and I typed in, what are the hours? One of the problems was that question showed up really low on the Google results page because there was an American company of the same name, but it was huge. And then the other thing is I looked at the navigation and it was hidden under the about tag. So all I did was I rearranged the navigation, and then I kept changing some factors that affect SEO so that if somebody were to just type into Google, what are hours for this business? It came up like boom right away, and I kept adjusting it. And then the funniest thing is that the front desk of this business phoned me and said that the somebody from the US called and said, do you know the phone number for the company in the States? Because I just can't find them on Google. Like we buried them so deep. So
oh, that's awesome. That's really impressive. So I'd love if you'd be willing to share, some other impressive results you've gotten just from kind of making these observations and tweaks.
Yeah, it's really fun when you start working with people for a period of time, you get to know them. Like, as I said, I really enjoy working with the people who answer the phone and the people who deal with the clients. So after I interview the owners and find out what they want, I visit with the front desk staff. So this one ski area I was working with, I talked to the different areas, and the ski school said, I keep getting so many calls about, these ski schools we're trying to put on, and people, it's so busy, I can't even get my work done. So I just drove straight down to the ski area. It's close where I live. And I interviewed them, because I was a parent at the time. So I asked them all the questions I would be asking if I wanted to put my child in ski school, went back to my office, and in 3 hours I had all the work done, and the staff was fantastic. I said, we need 2 videos, explain what this class needs, this class needs. They got the videos done, and the sales went up. Even it was the end of the season, sales went up 2,500% just from like maybe 5-6 hours work. So it's really fun. So some of these things I would just do after the fact, and, it wasn't, I didn't charge for it, because you're kind of selling, you're selling a promise. I'm going to build you this website, and I promise it'll get you these results. So until that promise comes due, it feels like the job isn't done, even though the client's paid you and they're happy, but you want to see those results. So it's fun to dig in afterward as well.
And, have you ever considered or have you implemented some way of like monetizing this after the fact? You said, back in the day, this was something you did just to deliver on the promise. So basically, how do you incorporate that into your calculation of kind of like hours spent and, price charge? Like, do you charge on a results basis? Do you kind of factor that in ahead of time?
No, a weakness of mine has always, and I don't know, I think it could be more common with women, is that we kind of tend to undersell us. And I've read that in studies too. It's like if somebody was running for office, a lot of men, and this is a stereotype, of course, I know lots of wonderful men, they'll be like, I can do that. And women really sit back and think, can I? And most of them are quite capable and they can, but they still hold back a little. I know everybody's different, but I find I'm a bit more of a hold back type of person, that I will research until, oh my gosh, the research I'll put into things and I still think, oh, I just don't know enough yet. And I'll read another book. So
maybe maybe what I'm hearing there is that there's a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like you're getting these incredible results. And this is just one, like just to any listeners, like before this call, in the like 5 minutes while we're just kind of, chatting about what we're going to talk about and stuff, Tricia just like said 3 or 4 stories where I was just like, wow, like holy cow, like 2,500% from like a few hours of work. I think that we can all relate to that imposter syndrome sometimes, it's just like, even though the results are there on paper, and in fact, I think that's sometimes why it's important to have the results there on paper. There's still this belief that, people are going to find out that, like I taught myself this or something like that, that somehow that's just not as valid. Is that just me?
Oh, no, and for sure. It always feels better to have some kind of certificate, that I'm this professional, but after studying something for 22 years, when do you get to pass and say, yeah, I am a professional in this?
Well, I'm just putting it out there. We talk to a lot of people on this podcast, big and small and et cetera, that, I just strongly suggest that, if you need somebody else to tell you, oh my gosh, that's amazing, and give you permission to start charging for those kinds of results, you have it. And also something, that just might be valuable to consider is some sort of results-based or profit sharing, structure to a service that you have, because that allows you to not ask for the money until you have created the results, but you have just such a strong track record. I mean, even you did just a little audit on our site and that changed our organic traffic and engagement, just ridiculous amounts. I think that could be a very successful win-win situation for you.
Yeah, and you're such a good company that it's... you want somebody to be found. Somebody like you want them to be found because you do such a great job. Like one of the first businesses I worked on with your copywriter, Michaela, like I went in for a follow-up meeting with that client and they hadn't had a new client. These people are amazing business people. I love them. They hadn't had a new client in 12 months. They have recurring revenue, but they hadn't, so that saves them. But no new clients in 12 months. I went for a follow-up, and by the way, they loved Michaela. So it was like, it was really fun to work all together. But then I came back and they're like, turn off the website. Like they have 8 new clients in 2.5 months. And it's like the copywriting is so important. And that's why I just love working with you guys. And you're very similar to me about digging in deep and strategy and putting everything together. So that's a big win of, working with you and getting those kind of results.
Awesome. Well, I will take that like the compliment it is, especially since behind the scenes, Michaela, I know the client you mean, and Michaela was just raving about it. Definitely, I think one of her favorite projects. She really got to flex her creative writing skills, which was great.
She did such a great job.
Awesome. Awesome. That just always balmed my ears. I'm like, oh, yes, definitely. I know how amazing my staff is. And it's really cool that you've had that experience as well. But, those, once again, this is just like amazing results that I'm hearing. So I want to just kind of reflect back and point out that the thing that I'm hearing again and again and again, and you did mention, you have a solid knowledge of good code, organic SEO, accessibility, which are specific things I'd love to dig into a little bit more as well. But what I'm hearing is that it's really about digging deep, interviewing not just the owners, but the frontline staff, putting yourself through the lens of their audience. These are some of the critical factors that I'm hearing again and again, as well as observation and strategic decisions based on observation, right? What I'm hearing is that you looked at what was going on, you checked in, you probably put a process around that, and you noticed that something perhaps was off or that there was a pattern, and then you went into that pattern, asked why, used the metrics and that knowledge to kind of problem solve that, and then made the adjustments that you need. And I think that that's a valuable process, whether you do work in copy or whether you do work in code or whether you do work in design. I think that user experience mindset is something that is extremely, extremely valuable. And I know something we've had great success with as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I've had that, you read different things and it just reinforces what's working for you. So, I read this story about there's this village in Africa and some missionaries came and they were so upset. Like, people were burning their fires in their huts. Oh my gosh, you're going to get like lung cancer and stuff. Anyway, they convinced them to burn their cooking fires outside of their living quarters, but then the people started getting malaria because the smoke kept the mosquitoes away, which is probably why it developed. So I find it so invaluable just to keep asking questions. And, I've also noticed this, maybe it's because people get to trust you the more you see them and they get to feel you out and feel comfortable. I'll be on my last meeting with them, and almost invariably, I will find out like the most important thing. And nobody told me. Like, I've asked it in tons of different ways because I'll ask repetitive questions and I'll find out that golden nugget. And it could be just that you spent more time with them.
Yeah, something that we really follow at Anansi is the idea of the interaction model, which is that we would rather have more shorter meetings because you have those opportunities for people to like walk away and come back and reflect. And because that trust for them to share those little nuggets of gold really is built over time. You really can't rush that. Sometimes you feel that amazing connection, but it still takes time to nurture that connection.
Yes.
Now, I do want to pivot us just a little bit and just ask, just because you have been able to create such magical results so for our listeners who are a little bit more experienced in code or already have, these skills around organic SEO and accessibility, what are some of the things that you are looking out for in analytics or even just in kind of critical thinking, marketing strategy when you're doing your observations after the site's been launched?
That's a good
or
question.
While you're building it.
I think every project is quite different. So I don't know, like when you start really thinking about your clients in every article you're reading, every book you're reading, like my interests change depending on which client I have. I will order, like I was talking to a travel agency. I started reading travel agency books. I'm not going to be a travel agent, but it completely reframes everything. So I don't know that I could have a checklist of what I really look at. It's like I become absorbed in it. And when I'm getting ready in the morning or going for my walk, like I'm constantly thinking about my clients. And it's just normal for me because I love business and I really, really get to know the people I work with. So I can't really answer that better than that, except for they're always on my mind.
Well, I can definitely relate to that. I often refer to what we do as strategists and as marketers, funnily enough, as being professional empaths. You know, we're really the key to being successful is being able to truly put yourself in that other person's shoes. And all of these kind of frameworks and checklists and stuff are just ways to basically put structure around that. If for people who aren't really sure where to start or, how to put themselves in those shoes.
You did remind me of something I just naturally do with all my clients. Of course, I get their permission first, but I ask them if it's okay if I get a copy of all the content forms that are sent through the website. I don't do it for people who have HIPAA compliancy. I don't do it because it's not allowed, it's private. But every other client, if I get their permission, I read the contact forms and I always find out something that's missing on the website. With the ski area, this mother, she had never skied, her child had never skied, and she was concerned. Is there a way to slow down a chairlift for people who are inexperienced? Absolutely. No, none of us thought to put that on the website. And it was an easy ad, and it helps people make a purchase decision, because instead of waiting the next day to phone, they might have purchased the ski membership that night without having to phone. And I find a lot of people don't like to phone. They want their answers on their own.
Oh, so true. I'm so guilty of that. Back in the day, the phone was everything and I would spend hours on the phone. But now it's like, oh, do I have to call in to get information?
It's so true. I feel bad if I phone my friends instead of texting them. I could be interrupting them.
Totally.
I text can I phone you? And yeah, it's so funny how things have changed.
Yes. And I'm sure that, the situation that we're currently in with COVID and everybody just having this cultural change rapidly forced on them will change things again. I'm really curious. Maybe the world will embrace video calling. That's my hope. It brings some humanity to the digital world. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's wonderful. And I remember I was joining a group and they said we had to do video calls. And I almost didn't join the group because I was so uncomfortable with video. And then I did join the group and got used to it. And now I love it.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that. For me, I felt quite hesitant around video, actually until I moved far away from my family. And then I found myself sometimes, this was pre-business, just hopping on a video call with my mom. And sometimes we would just hang out. We wouldn't even talk. We would just share the open space. We wouldn't talk all the time. Obviously, we would talk at least once, not just silently being there. And sometimes we work on our own things, but it creates this sense of space. And this sense of shared space that is sometimes a little bittersweet, because, for instance, these amazing people on my team that I love, some of my closest clients that I've known for years, I've never actually physically touched them or met them in person. And I can't, give that hug or pass that thing. But at the same time, it's the next best thing. It's actually easy to forget that sometimes. So it can be really powerful.
That's really interesting that you spent time without even talking, because I think especially if there's people who live alone and a time like this, just having that going, and you could watch the same show, separate houses, and talk about it like you would if you're in the same room. I think that's important for people who are alone during this time.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And it's been really nice also people who are perhaps a little bit more averse to those kinds of connections, being open to it when there's no other opportunity. So that's really cool.
It is.
Awesome. Well, before I wind us down into some of our lightning round questions, I'm just curious, you talked about some of these other things, including the navigation, the UI, again, just making sure there's good code, organic SEO, accessibility. What of all of those are 4 whole different worlds that you can go into and really immerse yourself. So I'm curious, are there kind of 1 to 3 things in that area that you find have come up with a lot of clients as an area of, improvement or potential improvement, or things kind of for people to either pay attention to or make sure that they're building in order to make things successful when they're putting it together?
So I think what you're doing is probably the most important, because you're working on strategy and you're thinking that through and how best to help your customer's customer. So I would think that's number 1. I think people can put up with an ugly website if the content's wonderful. And of course, if you can have both, good. And then it has to download fast, and people are losing track of that. And sometimes that could be, these new website builders, they're so easy to use that it's great. People are getting in there and doing their own thing, and that's wonderful. But just to keep an eye on things, especially images, and people are being looked after even more now because the website builders, they'll make sure they download an image, and that helps with the speed. But if you compress them, take the time to compress them and make sure they look good, and then check the speed of your whole website. It's amazing how big some websites are. So the speed, the strategy, and the good writing. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to be, award-winning writing. Just answer your customers' questions like you were having a conversation with them.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people think of copywriters as these word wizards, and certainly we refer to ourselves as word weavers. But actually, one of our mantras is clear is the new clever. It can be so tempting to write something that's like really cool, or these headlines that are really kind of all over the place and fancy. But when push comes to shove, just taking a turn through Google and seeing what people are actually looking for, and where other sites might fall flat in terms of making it clear for people to find that information, that has just been a lot on its own in terms of generating success. Although, of course, we're biased and we think copy is the key to a successful website every time.
I would agree with you. After all these years, I would agree.
Excellent. All right. So are you ready for 3 rapid fire questions in our lightning round?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. So what is the thing that gets you up in the morning?
I love my mornings because I'm completely alone and the house is silent. And I've gotten in a habit in the last few years of reading every morning for probably about an hour every morning. So I've just fallen in love with that. And if you read for 3 hours every morning, you're finishing about 2 books a week. So you just think about what a difference that makes. And it helps me with my creativity because all these other people's ideas swirling around in my head. So that would be something I love.
Awesome. I'm so on the same page with you there. I like to listen to books in the morning, but I find that as something similar. For me, I'm just insanely high energy. So like going for a walk or tidying while I listen is a really good way to kind of get myself going for the day. But other people's ideas, other people's experiences, so good.
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
Awesome. Okay, next question. What is the number one thing that you do to preserve your wellness?
Well, I definitely walk 10,000 steps a day. So that's just a baseline of exercise. And I started doing that when I got an iPhone because I work at a computer. And my son opened it up. He's like, Mom, you walked 250 steps today. And I was like, just in shock. I had no idea that I didn't really move. So from there on, I walk 10,000 steps a day. And I have a friend who will walk if it is pouring rain, if it's minus 40, we still go out, except for she does have a limit. If it's above 25 Celsius, meaning hot, she won't walk. That's her cutoff, but she'll walk at everything else.
That's pretty sweet. I mean, that's a pretty wide variety of temperatures. At least it's a safe variety of temperatures in Canada.
That's true.
Awesome. Another thing I definitely relate to. Okay, last question. What is the weirdest habit that you have that contributes to your success?
I cannot stop noticing anything that can cause pitfalls in my life or my family's, and I always have to fix everything. And I read some book they mentioned something called sentinel intelligence. And I'm like, oh, that's my specialty. So if anything looks dangerous, I clean it up. And so it's just always on my mind. And they said a person with sentinel intelligence would be that one person in a restaurant who smells the faint little bit of smoke before the whole restaurant even notices. So I'm just always focused on that, and it probably drives my kids crazy.
That being said, I'm sure it can come in really, really handy sometimes to be super problem aware. It's handy. Yes, that's what I was about to say. I can imagine it might be tiring, though. I can definitely relate to having a brain that's constantly observing and looking for problems.
So what it would do with, say, how it would play into my work is if I have to move a very important website, I will get up at 2 a.m. because if it goes down, I have till 7 a.m. when the customers start looking. So that's the kind of way it plays into my work life.
Okay. So it sounds like it plays into really everything you've talked about today in terms of the observation, making sure that you have a level of expertise in different things. One of the things you mentioned pre-call is that you use that expertise to make sure you can hire and effectively have relationships with and manage other people who are experts as well. So sounds like that's kind of playing into a lot of different things there.
Yeah, definitely it is.
Awesome. And why don't you tell the audience about how they can find out more about you, anything maybe about your business and what you have to share?
So I've been a generalist web designer, and that website is thesimpleweb.ca. And then just about a year ago, I started a niche one called Ledger's Branding, and that's at ledgersbranding.com. And so that would be for bookkeepers, accountants, profit first professionals. So I like to work with a website from beginning to end and make sure that everything is looked after, because quite frankly, small business owners are very, very busy. And if you don't take the time to build that into their website, it quite often just won't get done. So I like to look at the whole picture and work with people like a Nancy, or I call you a power partner, which that idea is stolen from somebody else I met, so I won't take credit for that. But I have different power partners who, even though I've studied a lot, I just think they're far superior than I am in that one area, and I love working with them.
Amazing. Well, I feel very blessed and honored that you consider us to be one of those power partners. We certainly consider you to be the same. Definitely we work with a lot of different agencies, and a few just really stand out and shine in terms of what they're able to accomplish, their vision, their values, etc. And you have definitely been one of those. So thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. This has just been a real pleasure. I personally got lots of gold nuggets out of it. And I know that our listeners did too.
Well, thank you very much. And I just have to congratulate you on the type of people you put together as a team. Like, that could be your side specialty, is how to hire an awesome team, because just an incredible group of people.
Thank you. Like on a personal level, one of the things, that we hear about a lot in the industry is finding your vision and finding your purpose and all this different type of stuff. And what I have found through Anansi is that the energy of putting together and hiring an incredible group of high achievers who love what they do and are, actually well compensated for it and have the opportunity to make a strong impact. It is so addictive and amazing. And if I ever do, leave Anansi in their capable hands and move on to something new, which, I would never fully leave it because I love the people there so much. I realize that that's really where my passion and purpose is in building teams. And interestingly enough, what people come to us a lot when they're asking for content, one of the topics we get asked about the most. So,
that it's very interesting, because I think you've built such a good team that you could leave it. So you've actually built a business, which is different than a lot of people would love to aspire to that, to be able to take time away from work and it'll run without you. So
excellent. Well, that is our goal. That was my goal when I started this out, just me, or it very quickly became my goal after I tasted freelancing and the freelancing life. That's really what we pivoted in the content. Originally, it was all about kind of communicating in the digital age and all this type of stuff. But what we found over time is that's really where our mutual passion is, as individuals in the team. About 3 or 4 of us on the team work on marketing in kind of a direct way. And also what basically we've heard and the data has shown us that people want to hear. So thank you. Thank you for that feedback. And I'm going to keep zooming forward. Awesome. Well, thank you. This has just been absolutely incredible. To all of our listeners, as always, I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. If you're having a challenging day, which I think many of us have been having a lot more challenging days recently, as things continue to unfold and develop around the pandemic. I hope you're able to take a moment, even if it's just one moment today, to just find something to be grateful or stoked about. And I find doing that, you can go a long way towards creating an amazing day for yourself. It's simple, not always easy. I get that. But to everyone listening, just good luck. I hope you have an awesome day.